Hey folks, this is Waylon Lewis of Elephant Journal, and I wanted to talk about something that is sadly uh, timely yet again. Is timely almost every day of the year, which is obviously we've had two recent shootings that have made headlines. And let's talk about common sense, come together now. All of us can agree upon gun safety solutions. So what is the solution to gun violence? Everyone here has seen the chart, I hope, that shows all the countries in the world, how many guns per capita are in each country, and how many mass shootings there are in every country. The line is like this, ding, 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 and then it gets to the US, and it goes off the chart. We have more guns per person. I think we have one gun for every single person in the US now. And we have more mass shootings. So none of this is anti-gun. It's sort of like saying a driver's license is anti-car, right? A driver's license is anti-truck. A driver's license is anti-motorcycle. Does anyone here want people riding around on motorcycles and driving big old Ford trucks without getting a license? Anyone? I can wait. So the common sense solutions, not being a Democrat versus Republican, the stuff that everyone agrees on. And here's the inspiring part, 90% of Americans agree with this. And yet our politicians can't come together because of the incredible power of the NRA, that lobby. So let's go through what these common sense solutions are, because reasonable people, including yourselves, aren't sure what actually might make sense. And if any of you leave comments, I think on Instagram or Facebook, we're on both right now. I think Vanessa will share that. So here's something I wrote a while back, and it's sadly relevant again. So I'll just read that. The solution to gun violence is in the middle. It's time for a change. If we don't change, it'll keep happening, and their blood will be on our hands. Reasonable gun regulation is more than a political issue. It is more than a partisan issue. It is more than a mental health issue. Or my Republican friends would be funding mental health, not stripping it of support. The biggest mental health care provider in the US is the prison system. We don't fund healthcare, let alone mental health, in the US. Or we're trying to, but Republicans want to defund all of it. But we don't fund universal. So this is not a responsible gun owners issue. They're great. Responsible gun owners are great. This is a loophole issue. This is an issue of looking at those countries, Australia, Japan, the rest of our world, that do not have gun violence problems, and learning from them. This is a public safety issue. This is about our children, all of our children, conservative and liberal, every race, every background. We can shout about this online, or we can work to solve this together. Yesterday, I think I tweeted, while in response to someone arguing with me about gun safety, reasonable gun safety that 90% of Americans support, I said, while you philosophize, people die. While you philosophize, nothing changes. So these are common sense reforms that actually are shown to work in other countries and could be applied here. We think we're the greatest country in the world. We should be, if we want to be, in terms of gun violence as well. We should be able to figure this out. Being aggressive toward the other side, villainizing the other side, is not helpful. Obviously, there are extremes on the other side, trolls, haters, white supremacists, our president, who at this point we have to stand up against. Not in violence, but in peaceful strength, and say, let us all be examples of peace and remembering that we're truly in this together. America is about democracy, agreeing agreeably to disagree instead of engaging on hate on our fellow citizens. So anyone reasonable, we should be able to have a reasonable conversation. So I've shared on Elephant Journal a photo of a veteran, former NRA trained hunter and member, now gun control advocate. And he's saying it's past time. Beautiful old man. So here's some facts. And this is all linked on my blog, The Solution to Gun Violence, which is in the comments on facebook.com/elephantjournal right now. And we can't put it on Instagram because Instagram doesn't allow links, but we'll put it on youtube.com/elephantjournal and elephantjournal.com/talkshow, where you can find all of our podcasts and videos. So a few reasonable steps. What are they? Honest question here. This is quoting Redditor. Honest question here, looking for real discussion. What are the proposed control measures? What actually might work? This is an answer from someone who says, I'm pro Second Amendment and I have a decent number of guns. That said, I'm not against reasonable control measures. I'd like to see universal background checks. Again, 90% of Americans support that. We don't have universal background checks. And properly documented and accessible mental health records. There's other solutions, like a gun could only work for the right fingerprint, just like when someone steals your phone, they can't use it, your iPhone. Why don't we do that for a gun, right? Wouldn't that be great? Then your kid finding your phone underneath your bed couldn't accidentally discharge it. Children get killed by guns all year in domestic accidents. So most common sense gun measures include some version of this. Comprehensive background checks. While implementation is always brought up, it is generally held that it might be a good idea to at least fully fund the federal background check system and place an obligation on states to report accurately their protective orders to the background check system. Number 2, mental health checks. This one is actually a little more tricky than either side makes it out to be, but the general consensus is that people who are a danger to themselves and others should not be permitted to own a firearm. Number 3, bans on people under 21 from purchasing guns. Some requests include reinstating the assault weapons ban, the AWB, which was allowed to be expired, and mass shootings have gone up dramatically since. The assault weapons ban was signed, I think, by Bill Clinton in the 90s, and it was bipartisan at the time, both parties. It's a word you have to define these days because it's so rare. The AWB, assault weapons ban, essentially outlawed the sale of the AR-15 and all knockoffs, but it was so vaguely written that a lot of gun stores didn't know what pieces of their inventory they were permitted to keep. So it needs to be improved upon, right? Number 2, comprehensive licensing laws. Basically, you have to demonstrate basic competence to get a license that would let you buy guns and ammo. The line generally boils down to, it shouldn't be easier to buy a gun than to buy a car. In practice, this isn't that different from how gun laws in Canada are structured, and while gun owners in the States may think Canada is one giant gun-free zone, you can own AR-15s, SKSs, and even newer semi-autos like the Chris if you get a license. And if you're not an irresponsible jackass, have a history of violence or mental instability, you can get one without much trouble. I'm quoting from this gentleman who owns a bunch of guns and is saying the basic common suggestions include these. So any eloquence or swearing is from this gentleman. Frog and bullfish. Perhaps a more advanced version of the concealed carry class requirement should allow the purchase of semi-automatics, ? They seem to be the general target of this. Also banning, so this is a question to this fellow. Also banning gun ownership under 21 while promoting it for the armed forces starting at 17 is morally suspect. So the discussion continues. In my post, so you can just read it there. And they have a long discussion. So basically, there are common sense suggestions out there that could immediately begin to save lives and reduce mass shootings and the likelihood. And as the Rolling Stones sang, it's just a shot away.
There's some comments on Facebook.
Okay. Do you want to? Okay, Sheila is saying all these things should be done on a federal level, universal background checks on all gun sales, all guns should be registered, ban on military type assault weapons, red flag laws in domestic and mental health situations, ban on high capacity magazines. This has everything to do with saving lives. Yeah, as Beto O'Rourke just said, and as we saw in Dayton, I think that shooting was stopped in 1 minute flat, and he'd already killed 9 or 10 people. So high capacity magazines, anything intended to kill a lot of people fast doesn't make sense. But anyway, there is a huge common ground. It's so huge that 90% of all Americans, I just got to keep quoting that, agree on common sense measures that won't overly hamper the enjoyment for hunters or law-abiding gun owners, all of whom no one has a problem with. No one. But, just like buying a car, we need to have some common sense kind of testing. Like I even have tests for my dog, who's right down here, to get a license so that he can be off leash. We don't do that much. I'm pretty sure high capacity semi-automatic weapon is more dangerous than Redford, my dog, who just is sleeping most of the time. So that's it. Wanted to put that out there. And yeah, I have put up a blog. Can you also put my Beto blog in there about calling out white supremacy? It's probably under latest. It's on elephantjournal.com. And hope you're all wonderful and safe, and may this be of some benefit. I'm hoping we can all come together and actually make something happen here. Or, as Einstein said, the definition of crazy is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. If we don't do a different thing here, we will continue to have more mass shootings, which I think none of us, except for some extreme violent people on one or two ends, none of whom we respect, want to see more mass shootings. Big love and be safe. Thank you.